Wow, here we are again. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. There are many, many stories in the Bible, and there are many that have dire consequences. This one in 2 Kings 4 and 18 through 5 and 27 is a story about a Shulamite woman that God had given her a child in her older years, and the child grew, and one day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. My head, he said to his father. And his father told a servant, carry him to his mother. And after the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. She went up and laid him on a bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. Now remember, this is a woman that had built a room on her house for the man of God, and felt that that's what the Lord would have her do. And God gave her this son because of that deed. She called her husband and said, please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return. Why go to him today? He asked. It is not the new moon or the Sabbath. It's all right, she said. She did not tell her husband that his son had died. She saddled a donkey and said to the servant, lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you. So she set out and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. And when he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, look there, the Shulamite. Run to meet her. Ask her, are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right? Everything is all right, she said. And when she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away. But the man of God said, leave her alone. She is in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son, my Lord? She said. Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hopes? And Elijah said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak under your belt, take my staff in your hand and run. If you meet anyone, do not greet him. And if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. But the child's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave you. So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face. But there was no sound of response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elijah and told him, the boy has not awakened. And when Elijah reached the house, there was the boy laying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And then he got on the bed, lay upon the boy mouth to mouth, eye to eye, hand to hand. And he stretched himself out upon him, and the boy's body grew warm. Elijah turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out upon him one more time. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. I think God has a sense of humor in some things. And Elijah summoned Gehazi and said, call the Shulamite. And he did. And when she came, he said, take your son. She came in, fell at his feet, bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. Elijah returned to Gilgal, and there was a famine in that region, while the company of the prophets was meeting with him. He said to his servant, put on the large pot and cook some stew for these men. One of them went out into the field, gathered some herbs, found a wild vine, and he gathered some of its gourds and filled the fold of his cloak. And when he returned, he cut them into the pot of stew, though no one knew what they were. And the stew poured out for the men. But as they began to eat it, they cried out, O man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat it. And Elijah said, Get me some flour. And he put it into the pot and said, Serve it to the people to eat. And there was nothing harmful in the pot. A man came from Baal-Shelaj, and bringing the man of God 20 loaves of barley bread, baked from the first ripe grain, along with some heads of new grain. Give it to the people to eat, Elijah said. How can I set this before 100 men? His servant asked. But Elijah answered, Give it to the people to eat. For this is what the Lord says, They will eat and have some left over. And then he set it before them, and they ate and had some left over, according to the word of the Lord. Do you know the word of the Lord is sure? The word of the Lord is guaranteed. Here's a miracle back in the Old Testament in 2 Kings that's comparable to the miracle of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Yes, this is a small group of 100 or so, but it's all in faith. This is the same faith here in the Old Testament we see in the New Testament. Now, Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram, and he was a great man in the sight of his master, and highly regarded, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram, and he was a violent soldier, but he had leprosy. Now the bands from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him of his leprosy. Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. By all means, go, the king Aram replied. I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. And the letter that he took to the king of Israel read, With this letter I am sending my servant Naaman to you, so that you may cure him of his leprosy. As soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robes and said, Am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me? When Elijah, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message, Why have you torn your robes? Has the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel? So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elijah's house. And Elijah sent a message to say to him, Go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed. But Naaman went away angry and said, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot, and cure me of this leprosy. Are not Abner and Thamar better rivers in Damascus, better than the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be cleansed? So he turned and went off in a rage. But Naaman's servant went to him and said, My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you have done it? He said, How much more then when he tells you to wash and be cleansed? So he went down, dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times, and as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored, and he became clean like that of a young boy. Then Naaman and all his attendants went back to the man of God. He stood before him and said, Now I know there is a God in all the world, no God except in Israel. Please accept now my gift from my servant. But the prophet answered, Surely, as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept a thing. Even though Naaman urged him, he refused. If you will not, said Naaman, please let me, your servant, to be give as much earth as a pair of mules can carry for your servant. Will you never again make burnt offering and sacrifice to any other god but the Lord? But may the Lord forgive your servant for this one thing. And when my master enters to the temple of Rimmon, bow down, and he is leaned on my arm, and I bow there also. When I bow down in the temple in Ramah, my Lord, forgive your servant for this. Go in peace, Elijah said, after Naaman had traveled some distance. Gehazi, the servant of Elijah, the man of God, said to himself, My master was too easy on Naaman, this Aramean, by not accepting from him what he brought. As surely as the Lord lives, I will return after him and get something from him. So Gehazi hurried after Naaman, and Naaman saw him running toward him, and he got down from his chariot to meet him. Is everything all right? He asked. Everything is all right, Gehazi answered. My master sent me to say, the 2 young men from the company of the prophets have just come to me from the hill country of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 sets of clothing. There was a lying rascal. By all means, take 2 talents, said Naaman. And he urged Gehazi to accept them, and then tied up 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 sets of clothes, and gave them to 2 of his servants, and they carried them ahead of Gehazi. When Gehazi came back to the hill, he took the things from the servant, put them away in the house, and he sent the men away, and they left. Then he went in and stood before his master Elisha. Where have you been, Gehazi? Elijah asked. Your servants didn't go anywhere, Gehazi answered. But Elijah said to him, Was not my spirit with you when the man got down from his chariot and met you? Is this the time to take money or to accept clothing, olive groves, vineyards, flocks, herds, or manservants or maidservants? And Naaman's leprosy will cling to you and to your descendants forever. Then Gehazi went from Elijah's presence, and he was leprous, as white as snow. Do you or I think that we can get away with going against the will of God? If you think so, pay attention to this little excerpt right here. God allowed this man, Naaman, this man, to get the leprosy. This was a good servant, Gehazi, I meant. And God allowed him to get leprosy for his disobedience. So if you think we can be disobedient and not get leprosy in this day and age, I'm telling you, God has brought this pandemic upon this world to show us, Christians, that we need to shape up or we're going to be in serious trouble. This pandemic is falling on the Christian as well as the unbeliever. It may even be falling on the Christian more than the unbeliever. So, we need to be careful, and we need to call on the Lord right now during this period of time. And we need to follow Him. We need to pull up close to Him. And we need to gird our loins up and ask Him for peace of heart and peace of mind and for safety in this time. I'm 78 years old. I'm in the line of the persons that if I get it, I'm gone from here. I'll be in heaven within a few days. I'm not ready to go to heaven. I believe God's got something for me to do. So therefore, I'm going to be careful. And I'm going to get myself to the place to where God would have me be. And get my studying done. And get those things. And the words of Zechariah come out in the book of Matthew. Is Jesus a king? Yes. He is prophesied king. Yes. He is a rejected king. But someday he will be coming and reigning king. The Old Testament tells us that he will sit upon the throne of David in a perfect reign. He didn't do that when he came the first time. And he doesn't reign today. But one glad day, he will return and he will reign as supreme ruler. Then all the world will sing out in one great paean of praise, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You remember the birth of Jesus in the book of Matthew? How he came and his genealogy was from the King of Kings and from the Lord of Lords. And the first 17 verses, he gives the name of our Lord's ancestors, all the way back to Abraham, father of the Jewish race. And as we read this list, we find in it the names of some notorious sinners. Wow. Of which I was. I was a notorious sinner one time. And we see the names of Tamar, Rahab, Bathsheba, David. These all committed grievous sins, but they are included in the list. Thus Christ, through his inheritance, none of their sinful tendencies became forever identified with the human race and with the sinful men of whom he would die one day on the cross. Jesus Christ died on the cross for you and I. No matter how evil you have been in life, he has given us salvation. Hey, we know that sin began with Adam and Eve, and it came down through every succeeding generation, but it never touched Jesus, and he was wholly without sin. And when I studied this one time before, I put that in italics. But you and I, and all who have gone on before us, are sinners. All who will come after us are sinners. We need the salvation which comes only from the sinless man, Jesus Christ. If you should happen to come on one of Brother Peter's excerpts here, I'm here to tell you today, the only way to heaven is through this sinless man, Jesus Christ. He died on the cross for you and I. If you'll but say, God, forgive me, I am a sinner. Cleanse my heart. Come in, save my soul, and give me what you would have me to have, and help me to follow you. Get a Bible, a King James Version Bible. Get in it and start reading it, and ask God to show you where you need to be. Well, we will see you next time. Right. By the way, the Lord allowed me to lead a man to the Lord last week. Pray and hope that I can lead another one to the Lord this week. We'll see you next time. Right. Bye-bye.